The opening bid on Lot 14 passed 400,000 before I finished my final vitals pass, and I still hadn't decided whether to say anything. I do this work for 6 houses across the concourse, and the protocol never changes: skin temperature, capillary refill, microtremor at the throat, dermal conductivity at 3 points. Lot 14 had been catalogued 9 months ago by the Reclamation Compact as perfect repose, male, human, class 11 Deathworld origin, recovered inert from a boarder skiff, certified non-living under the Compact's full diagnostic suite. The recovery report described a standard pattern for that syndicate: a disabled vessel, a boarding crew, a body found unresponsive among the wreckage and shipped cold for 9 months until a house with the right clientele could afford the asking price. I had read the file twice. The file said dead. My thumb against his wrist said something else. 61 beats a minute. Not 0, the way a true specimen reads 0. Slow, even, patient, the kind of slow that takes discipline, not decay. I told Director Core before the floor opened. Salen Core ran authentication for the house the way he ran everything: pale crest feathers smoothed flat, voice flat to match. He looked at my tablet for 4 seconds. The Compact's instruments are calibrated to a standard you don't have clearance to second guess, Ms. Kessler. Sign the floor certificate. I requested a secondary pass on the house's own scanner instead of arguing. It came back ambiguous, a result Core read as confirmation and I read as a warning, which is the kind of disagreement that never makes it onto a form. He had a sale to open in 11 minutes and a reserve price the Compact had set high enough to need defending. I signed the floor certificate. That's the job. You flag what you find, twice if you have to, and then you sign what they tell you to sign, because the house's instruments outrank a consultant's thumb against a wrist every time, on paper. By the time the bidding passed 1.1 million, Lord of Ren Voskal had moved from his private box down to the rail, the way collectors do when a piece is about to become theirs and they want the room to watch them want it. Marith aristocracy doesn't shout. They preen. They let the silence do the boasting. He'd been outbidding 2 rival houses for 11 minutes and hadn't blinked his inner membrane once. A naturalist from the Concourse Academy, seated near the back, asked aloud why a 9-month specimen still showed muscle tone at all. Core answered before I could, something about premium preservation technique, and the bidding went on without breaking stride. I was called to the floor at 1.4 for the live certification, house custom, full inspection in front of the winning party before the hammer falls, to protect the buyer from exactly the kind of fraud I was currently trying to report and currently being told to ignore. I knelt at the plinth. Lot 14 lay the way perfect repose pieces always lay, spread cloth beneath him, climate dome humming, lighting pitch to flatter stillness rather than reveal it. I checked the throat again. The microtremor was there, the kind a body makes when something underneath is choosing not to move, rather than failing to. I checked the eyes, the lids sat fractionally less sealed than the file photo from 9 months back, a degree of give in the muscle a real specimen doesn't keep. I checked the hands. The right one had repositioned 2 centimeters from where the last condition report logged it, a week ago, in a sealed climate dome nobody else had touched. Voskal already owned 4 other perfect repose pieces, all displayed standing in his atrium under soft light, all purchased the same way, all certified the same way. I thought about that while I worked, and kept my face the way the job requires. None of that fits on a floor certificate. The form has boxes: temperature, conductivity, decay index, structural integrity. There's no box for I think this man has spent 9 months reading every appraisal filed on his own body, and has decided, very deliberately, not to let a single one of us know it. I signed the floor certificate. 300 people in that gallery, and not one of them looking at the body the way I was. They were looking at the price. Core called the final round. Voskal raised his paddle without raising his voice, and the number on the board crossed 2 million, and the room did the thing rooms like that one do, a long exhale dressed up as applause. Buyer's privilege, Core announced. Final physical claim, before transfer of title. That's custom too. The winning bidder lays hands on the piece. Confirms it's real, confirms it's now his, before the funds clear. I had watched it run 100 times. I had never once, in 4 years on this floor, wanted to stop it. I didn't stop it. Voskal came down off the rail unhurried, savoring it, and laid 2 long fingers flat against Lot 14's sternum the way a man presses his palm to a painting he's just bought, feeling the brushwork settle into something that finally belongs to him. The eyes opened on the second finger. Not wide. Not startled. Opened the way a man's eyes open when he has already decided what happens next and is only confirming the room is ready for it. 61 beats a minute went to 63. That was the only thing about him that moved fast. Voskal's hand was still on his chest when the human closed 2 fingers around the wrist, turned it a 1/4 inch past where the joint wanted to go, and Voskal folded sideways onto the plinth with a sound more startled than hurt. The pair of house guards who'd flanked the rail all evening reached for him at the same unhurried pace they'd used all night, which is to say far too slow, and the human came up off the cloth in one motion that didn't look fast so much as already finished by the time anyone's eyes caught up to it. One guard went down with his own baton folded back against his own forearm. The other stopped on his own, paddle hand half raised, and simply didn't try. Nobody screamed. That surprised me more than anything else that happened. Kor's crest had gone fully flat against his skull, every feather, the Marith equivalent of a held breath. 2 compact representatives near the catalog table started for the side exit and then thought better of it, standing very still instead, the same stillness everyone in that room had just learned to fear. The room, 300 collectors who had spent the evening competing to own a man, went silent in the specific way a room goes silent when it understands, all at once, that it has been wrong about which direction the danger was pointed. The human looked down at Voskal, still cradling his wrist on the floor, and didn't hit him again. Didn't need to. He stepped off the plinth, bare feet on cold tile, 9 months of stillness unspooling out of him in a posture that finally had nowhere left to hide it, and he looked, of all the people in that room, at me. Kessler, he said, like he'd read the name off my floor pass weeks ago and filed it for later. You signed the certificate twice. I did. You also flagged it twice. I didn't have an answer for that one. He didn't seem to need me to have one. Security reached the floor 4 minutes later, by which point there was nothing left for them to secure. The Reclamation Compact's recovery license was suspended within the hour, pending review of every perfect repose lot the syndicate had ever certified. The house withdrew Lot 14 from sale, struck the entry from the catalog, and logged it under a classification nobody on the concourse had used before, live recovery, status contested. Voskal's other 4 pieces went into the same review queue by morning, on Kor's own order, before anyone else could think to ask for it. By the following week every house on the concourse had added a clause to its sale terms requiring an independent vitals consultant's sign-off to be binding rather than advisory, a single line of policy that took 9 months and 1 auction floor to become obvious. His name, it turned out, was Soren Adair, and he had spent 9 months reading every appraisal filed on his own body, waiting for the single moment a buyer's hand would be close enough, and the room's guard far enough down, to matter. Nobody had asked him to hold that still for that long. He told me afterward that it hadn't felt long at all. It had felt like waiting for a door to open from the inside, where the only patience required was his own, and the only schedule that mattered was theirs. I never did file a final certificate for Lot 14. There isn't a box on the form for what he turned out to be. I checked.